take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio Chartered Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst Sheson Okunade and journalist Ifi Onyegbule. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Gentlemen of the press, if I may say.
Thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's
too.
Friday. And Happy New Year. I'm seeing you for the
Yeah,
first
we're
time
seeing
this
for
year.
the very first time. Happy New Year. How's it
Ify is
been?
all around, just having fun.
In fact, she's been touring the world. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we'll head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Daily Times. Southwest governors admit Amotekun is illegal. Meet with Oshibaju Malami, Inspector General of Police. AGF was right to give it legal backing. Akeredolu. Interesting development there. Moving to the blueprint, 24 hours after Tinubu stands, federal government, Southwest governors reach truce to work out legal framework. AGF denies tagging outfit illegal. It's legal. Ozekome Odua Youth Support Governors. Ohaneze wants Bakassi back. All right. And to the front page of the News Direct, Corruption Perception Index. Controversy trails drop in Nigeria's ranking as EFCC rejects Transparency International's report. Corruption Perception Index report doesn't reflect ongoing reality. BMO. To the Daily Trust now, federal government, Southwest governors strike a deal on Amotekun. Outfit must align with community policing template. Afenifere not convinced. And finally, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, Operation Amotekun, federal government governors strike deal. Security outfit to align with community policing. States to give legal backing. Attorneys General raise panel as speakers give support. Malami insists regional security plan illegal. All right. We'll obviously be looking at the story that is on the front page of almost all the papers this morning, talking about the federal government and the Southwest governors striking a deal, and then the governors agreeing that this Amotekun was illegal in the first place. I wonder what you make of this development, Sheson.
The term legal, illegal, it's quite disheartening the way and manner our leaders politicize things. First and foremost, we expect the governors to know better than what we are saying.
Especially having a senior advocate
the
in their
uproar
midst.
that we had in the last few weeks on this Amotekun shows that when you try to please people, you see, when you're overzealous about something, it makes you lack some merit behind the scene. We expect having
Were
a
they
son.
being overzealous, or they were trying to do their duty in terms of protecting their citizens?
When you do your duty, you should know there are certain things that guide that principle. We all said it at the initial stage, even though we discredit the reaction of the AGF, that all the state governor supposed to have the approval of the House of Assembly on the modality of how this will be, because it's still not being budgeted for. They don't have the laws guiding them. But fine, it's a good initiative, but you should have the backing of the State of Assembly, because definitely you are going to appropriate for it in your budget.
Absolutely.
For you to take care of some of those things. And when they don't have the approval of some of this, and there's no how it's going to fly. So it's quite disheartening that we have knowledgeable people, and we started trading and politicizing things. It's right, it's not right. But finally, it's good that they shed off their ego and they admit,
they've come to,
it's illegal.
Yes.
The man that claimed the illegality has shed off his own and said, okay, come, let's reach a common ground and move
Let's
on.
have a legal framework to
Legal
back
framework.
this up.
So Amotekun has come. They will design the framework and we can move on because we need it.
Would we really move on from this point, looking at the controversies that trailed, the inception of Amotekun in the first place?
I don't think that it will be that easy to just move on. You know what it's like when people already have their minds made up. They have an idea what it is that they want to do. They had to, sit down, think it through. Now you're getting to a larger table. Someone is saying, look, it is illegal. I know as men, as it is, when I talk about men, it doesn't have to be their genetic makeup, but as men, they've gone there to say, look, let's agree with the federal government that it's illegal, in quote. But when you look at it, the Southwest truly needs this. And I'm wondering why anyone will wake up and say, look, that this is coming at a very wrong time. These are people who have come together to say, look, let us find a way to secure the lives and the property of our own people. But however it is, we just have to give them the benefit of the doubt that from now, as they move forward, things will be sorted out, you know, so that everyone benefits from what it is that we're talking about.
Yesterday, I think we saw North Central governor saying that they will be coming up with something, and we are reading in one of the papers this morning that Ohanese is asking for Bakassi to return. It seems the regions are beginning to take initiatives to protect their people.
Veronica, is expected. We need that. You see, even in the developed world, there are security at every level. It's not just only at the state level. Local government should start thinking of how they will secure their locality too. You see, we are just making an heap out of this. Several estates in this part of the world have their security apparatus that protects them. So that's we can call the local side of it. So if the state has their own, the federal government has the police, the state has the community policing, the local has, so you will be safe. See, security is the bedrock of any development and growth of any nation.
And just as Sheson has actually said, I grew up, you know, sometime in a place where you had the OPC. Remember what it used to be? Yes. I could come home at any time because I knew these young men were right there on the street. Let me share with you. Someone came to visit me and I had my phones on silent. I put the phones away somewhere. And this person came around, I think past 11, came to visit. He couldn't reach me. You know, they had to keep him till morning to say, what are you doing on the street? What are you doing here? Now the person you're calling is not picking your call. They kept him till the next morning. When I saw all of the missed calls, I had to go to the police station where they took him. So with what he's saying, I think is right, you know, to have community policing as it is.
Invariably, we're going back to what a lot of Nigerians have been clamoring for, state policing.
But federal government already have that template. It's part of their agenda, which they intend to execute.
When is it going to be implemented?
But with this, I think we can have a leadway to it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio CEO, CKN News, Chris Kende Wandu, and Chartered Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst, Sheson Kwadi. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
It's good
Morning
to be here.
All right, so let's look at the stories making the headlines. The Daily Times is where we're starting with this morning. Southwest governors admits Amotekun is illegal. Meets with Oshibanjo, Malami IGP. AGF was right. We'll give it legal backing, says Akeredolu. The blueprint says here, 24 hours after Tinubu stands, federal government Southwest governors reach truce to work out legal framework. AGF denies tagging outfits illegal. It's legal, says Ozehome. Odua Youth Support Governors, Ohanese wants Bakassi back. The News Direct says, Corruption Perception Index controversy trails drop in Nigeria's rankings. As EFCC rejects Transparency International's report, Corruption Perception Index report doesn't reflect the ongoing reality. That's according to BMO. The Daily Trust says federal government Southwest governors strike deal on Amotekun. Outfit must align with community policing template. Afenifere not convinced. The Nation says Operation Amotekun, federal government governors strike deal. That's the bold header in the Nation newspaper. We'll stick with the story in the News Direct. Corruption Perception Index controversy trails drop in Nigeria's rankings as EFCC rejects Transparency International's report. Corruption Perception Index report doesn't reflect ongoing reality, says BMO. That's the story in the News Direct this morning. So, gentlemen, let's talk about this. Now, Nigeria dropped 2 places in the rankings. What's your say? How would you react to this now?
Well, I would say drop 2 places. It's an epidemic that is with us, has been with us, and will always remain with us.
Is it a reflection of the ongoing fight against insecurity?
In terms of indices, as released by TI, I don't see any significant drop. I don't see any significant drop. We are still within the threshold of being termed as one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Out of 180, I think we are within 148
yes.
And the rest of them. So which other countries are left? But the fact is that the federal government is still striving to make sure that corruption is reduced to the barest minimum. Then, why the President Buhari seems to be the arrowhead, but what of those surrounding him? Are they also queuing into the of those issues that have been raised by the president? That is the issue. If you go to most of the ministries, federal ministries, you will see the level of corruption. People are looking at other. If you go to the ministries, federal ministries and parastatals, and see the level of corruption, right from the lowest person to the highest, you will marvel. So what I think we need to do is try to rejig our anti-corruption agencies and to be able to empower them the more. Then some of the, there has been this cry that there should be an anti-corruption court, unlike the conventional court. We are not making a lot of progress in that. If we can have that, then it will make it easier for agencies like the EFCC, ICPC, and others to take anybody to those courts and get them convicted, and not this long stretch that is taking. That will deter a lot of Nigerians.
Will it affect the ratings by TI in the next year?
If we can do that, I'm sure it will. Because you come to look at it, you see that some of these cases last for so many. And the problem also is that technicalities. You come to realize that, unlike what happens in other places, here we try to. Other agencies will do their investigation properly before arresting the person. But here, the reverse is the case. We arrest them and start looking for evidences. And by the time you know it, they will just get the best of lawyers and just
arresting based on hearsay.
That is just it. So that is always been the problem.
All right.
So those are the issues.
EFCC is rejecting the report by Transparency International. But what is your own take on this now? The fight against insecurity is said to be gathering momentum. But with this index by Transparency International, how do we move forward, especially with the fact that EFCC has rejected it?
Theophilus, I will want EFCC to understand one thing. You see, when people are rating you, there are certain indices that they have put in place to rate you. It's just like a student. You read so hard, and at the end of the day, the teacher will tell you that you failed. You call for your paper and they will show you categorically you failed. So it's not that you've not read. So they've stated their indices. I think EFCC should look at what are the parameters if they are actually concerned about the rating from TI. What are the indices that they are using in rating them? How do we work on it and get deliverables so that we can satisfy them? But like CKN said, we have not moved anywhere far. 180 something, you are 148, 2 steps forward. There is no, it's not like a child in the class of 50 who was 43 and they said he's now 41. There is no improvement. But if we are saying that you have moved from 44 to about 24 in a class, we said, okay, there is serious improvement.
Are we saying that there's no improvement based on TI's index or based on what we see on the ground?
Even what we see on the ground, like you said, have we actually executed that part that say we should have this court that deal with issue of corruption within a short period
to handle the cases, the corruption cases that
most of the judges that should work for us are outside the country? Because there is no economic viability of you staying in this country. You do everything on your own cost. So everybody wants to look for greener pasture and get those things there. So the fact remains that if we put our house in order, you can't imagine taking a corruption case for 12 years. Look at the time value of money. If you are pushing the guy for like 2 billion at the particular time, 12 years later, the time value of that 12 billion cannot be valued. It would have increased in many magnitude. And that's why I feel TI is saying that we are still where we are until, if you get hold of anything after your investigation, those things are executed within 1, 2, 3 months, and you are able to have it. Which is to say that before you come online to say you are holding anybody, carry out your deep investigation. So that as soon as you are getting hold of him, if he's saying no, you take him to court within 2, 3 months.
Evidence.
You are done with it. I'm sure if that is carried out, the TI rating will definitely go, and we'll all see. See, when we are saying get money, it's not about it. They are recovering money. More money are being taken. Even under this administration, that we are fighting corruption, more money, because it's only the president and maybe the vice that we are saying are said. Other people are still doing their things the way they want it to be done.
It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio CEO CKN News, Chris Kainde Nwandu, and chartered accountant and public affairs analyst Sheson Okwade. Gentlemen, thank God it's Friday.
Thank God it's Friday.
And you're dressing, I'm trying to understand, is it, I don't want to say Amotekun, but then I had to say it.
This is Amotekun Notana. It's nice to be here.
All right, welcome. All right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Daily Times. Southwest governors admit Amotekun is illegal. Meet with Oshibajo Malami, Inspector General of Police. AGF was right, will give it legal backing, Akeredolu. To the blueprint now, 24 hours after Tinubu stands, the federal government's Southwest governors reached truce to work out a legal framework. AGF denies tagging outfit illegal. It's legal, Ozekome. Odua youth support governors. Ohaneze wants Bakassi back. On the front page of the News Direct, Corruption Perception Index, controversy trails drop in Nigeria's ranking as EFCC rejects Transparency International's report. Corruption Perception Index report doesn't reflect ongoing reality, BMO. On the front page of the Daily Trust, federal government, Southwest governor strike deal on Amotekun. Outfit must align with community policing template. Afenifere not convinced. And finally, on the Nation newspaper, Operation Amotekun, federal government, governor strike deal. Security outfit to align with community policing. States to give legal backing. Attorney General raise panel as speakers give support. Malami insists regional security plan illegal. Gentlemen, let's look at this issue of Amotekun. It has generated a lot of controversy, and now the federal government and the Southwest governors have struck a deal to come up with a legal framework. What would you expect, Chris, to be contained in this legal framework? Because sometimes we do not look at every aspect when we are trying to come up with a framework to drive an outfit such as this. Look at the issue of perhaps let's take the NLC striking a deal for workers, and now the consequential adjustment of states. Some persons said this should have been addressed in that agreement in the first place. So to avoid a situation that we have seen with the NLC, what would you expect in that framework now?
Yes, first and foremost, it's good that common sense is prevailing now. The AGF was right in a way. The Southwest governors and our government were also right in their own rights. Basically, as the chief executive of their states, it is their right to protect their people because that's why they were elected. If you can't protect your people, then there's no reason why you should be in government. That's the obligation. That is the basic obligation of your being elected. Then coming to the scope, I'll be looking at they'll be looking at the do's and don'ts, the areas of influence, areas of scope, where they can, what they can do and what they cannot do. Don't forget that we operate a federal system where we have a national police, but that has been decentralized a bit now, where we've always advocated for state policing. But since that has not come into play, what we are now having is regional and local policing efforts being put in place, which is good enough. Now, after the meeting with the vice president yesterday, it became necessary that there must be a framework, legal framework to establish, which probably the governors didn't take into consideration initially. But now it has been agreed. Now it's for each state to now come up with their own legal. We'll go to their state houses of assembly to enact that law. And this is also a good point for other states that intend, especially those in the other regions, those in the southeast, and the rest of them, they are thinking of coming up with their own to make sure they have the legal framework in place before going ahead. Once that is established, there is no way that Amotekun or whatever name we call it is the issue that we have.
This legal framework will take care of every concerns that some persons have heard over before when it came up, when the idea came up in the first place, because several concerns, operational concerns, were what a lot of people had.
To me, I think the argument forth and back on this Amotekun thing will give a deeper insight into the framework that will actually come up. Because in the process of that argument, several people came from different perspectives
Yes.
about the establishment of this Amotekun of a thing. And I think that will be like a guide for the people that will be putting the framework together. Area of operations concern the people, the training of the people concerned. You know, most of the people that will be in this team will not be the high-end learned people who, you know, language, you know, our universal language is like English. How do you introduce the local content? Because you want to address someone who cannot speak an English language, or who does not understand that language, and you are communicating in a language to such person. You know, there is it's a barrier.
Yeah.
So some of those things should be infused into those framework. Otherwise, if you don't understand yourself, it's like a Tower of Babel. You start shooting people or you start reporting people unknowingly. So these are some of the things they must factor in, because it's going to be regionalized. There should be an instance where you have interpreters in case anything happens. Because you can't say that other tribes stay in this part of the world and we are all together. So we should put that as part of the things that we must do, that must be in the legal framework. Then how are we going to fund it? It's very critical.
That's another major issue.
It's very critical. How are they, because it's been regionalized, what is the contribution of each state to this? And how there should be possibly punishment if you default. Because if you default and you don't pay these people, you know what it's going to turn to. Because their welfare is paramount.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, the next thing you see is they'll become beggars on the road, and they might tilt towards the part of the people that give them something. But if they take care of their welfare, which I feel should be part of the things they should be talking about, I'm sure we're going to have a very wonderful security outfit, and which in turn will assist in the growth and development of our economy.
All right, we'll leave it here, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your contribution on the newspaper review, and have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.
You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're streaming live on YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast.